Have you ever felt like someone only realized your value when it was too late? When you were already gone, already evolving, already thriving without them? It's a brutal irony, isn't it? We've all been taught a dangerous misconception that if we want someone to see our worth, we have to convince them. We have to prove ourselves. We have to fight for their attention, their love, their validation. But what if I told you that everything you've been taught about winning someone back or about healing from their absence was completely wrong? What if the real power doesn't lie in chasing after them, but in making them feel something far more devastating than loss, irrelevance? Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads you to repeat the same mistakes, waiting, hoping, wondering. The other path is harder at first. It demands discipline, it demands stoicism, it demands a version of you that no longer needs them to recognize your worth because you already embody it. Which path will you take? Today, I'm about to share something that most people will never tell you, a transformative shift. Not the surface-level advice you hear everywhere about moving on or staying strong, but a deep, permanent mindset change based on the principles of Stoic relationships, one that will make them desperate to fix everything once they realize they no longer have any power over you. They won't be running back because you begged. They'll be running back because they feel the terrifying weight of being nothing in your world. This isn't just theory. This is how human psychology works. When you remove your energy, your attention, your presence, you create a void they cannot ignore. And in that void, the fear of insignificance grows louder and louder until it's unbearable. That's when the chase begins. Not you chasing them, but them scrambling to find a place in your life they can no longer claim. This is Stoicism in action. Detached, powerful, unshakable. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're not just going to feel empowered, you're going to be unstoppable. What you're about to learn could be the turning point, the very thing that makes you untouchable in the eyes of those who once underestimated you. The best part? Once you understand how Stoic relationships truly work, you'll realize you never needed them to complete you. You were always whole. Are you ready to step into the reality where you are the center of your own world? Are you ready to make them feel what you once felt and rise beyond it without ever looking back? Good. Let's dive deep into the first truth they'll be forced to confront, the beginning of their greatest regret and your greatest transformation. Trust me, you won't want to miss a second of this. 1. The throne they thought was theirs forever. There's a brutal truth most people don't want to admit. The moment you make someone feel like the throne they once occupied in your life is no longer reserved for them, everything shifts. In the beginning, they sat there comfortably, didn't. They assumed the throne was theirs by right, that no matter how they treated you, no matter how often they neglected you, no matter how little they appreciated your loyalty, you would always be there, waiting, hoping, hurting. But have you ever asked yourself why you allowed it? Have you questioned why their careless rule went unchallenged for so long? The common belief drilled into us by years of cultural conditioning is that if you love someone, you wait, you endure, you give them space to realize your worth. But what if that's the biggest lie of all? What if love isn't about waiting? It's about knowing you are the prize, the throne, the entire kingdom. That's where the foundation of Stoic relationships lies, not in proving your loyalty to someone who doubts you, but in mastering your loyalty to yourself. When someone assumes they own a place in your heart, they grow careless, complacent. They forget that love, respect, presence, these things must be earned, not taken for granted. And when you finally rise from the ashes of disappointment and reclaim that throne for yourself, it sends a shockwave through their world. Suddenly, the seat they thought they owned is no longer empty and waiting. It's filled with your self-worth, your dignity, your unstoppable energy. They come back to reclaim it, but there's no room left for them anymore. That's the moment their ego fractures. That's the instant they realize they were never the rulers of your life. You were simply allowing them the illusion of power. And when you strip that illusion away, they're left scrambling, desperate to find a way back into a place that no longer exists. How does it feel to finally understand that you were never meant to be ruled? That you were the true sovereign all along? There's a deep satisfaction in watching someone realize they're no longer entitled to your loyalty. It's not bitterness, it's clarity. Stoicism teaches us that emotions are to be observed, not obeyed, and that mastery of oneself is the highest form of power. When you apply Stoicism to your relationships, you stop chasing people who disrespect your time and your heart. You stop leaving the throne of your life empty, hoping they'll notice and return. You sit in your power. You reign without apology. You become the version of yourself that no longer needs external validation because your worth was never dependent on someone else's ability to see it. Can you imagine the impact of such a transformation? Can you see how their world crumbles the moment they realize they're no longer the center of your universe? They thought walking away would leave you shattered, stuck, frozen in time, waiting for their return like a forgotten relic. But instead you did the unimaginable. You rose. You didn't just survive. You evolved. You became something greater than they ever expected. And now, the throne they thought would remain eternally empty, eternally theirs to reclaim, is occupied by a version of you they no longer recognize, stronger, wiser, untouchable. That's the real punishment, isn't it? Not anger, not revenge. Just the simple, quiet truth that they lost their seat at your table forever. In Stoic relationships, we understand that the real battle isn't for their love, it's for our own sovereignty. And once you reclaim it, there's no going back. They can beg, they can plead, they can promise you the world, but you already gave yourself the world. You no longer wait for them to realize your worth because you're too busy building a life, where their absence isn't a wound, but a window into everything you can become without them holding you back. Have you felt that shift yet? Have you tasted the freedom of not needing them anymore? If you haven't, you will. Stay disciplined, stay unwavering, because the truth is, the more they sense that they have lost access to your throne, the harder they will fight to get it back, and the more irrelevant they will feel when they realize the kingdom has moved on without them. That's the core of Stoicism applied to relationships. Quiet power, silent evolution, and the ability to rise above attachment without losing your humanity. You don't hate them, you don't seek to destroy them. You simply outgrow them, and, in doing so, you reclaim everything they thought they could keep from you. Power, peace, freedom. Have you ever wondered why the ones who take you for granted seem to panic the most when you finally move on? It's because deep down, they knew you were irreplaceable. They were just too arrogant, too blinded by their own comfort to admit it. And now, as they watch you from a distance, they are forced to confront a reality they never prepared for. You were the prize. You always were. In Stoic relationships, we don't scream this truth from the rooftops. We embody it, silently, powerfully, unapologetically. So let them look back at the empty throne they abandoned. Let them see it shining brighter than ever, guarded by a version of you that no longer seeks permission to rule. Let them feel the crushing weight of irrelevance as they realize they are no longer welcome in a kingdom they believed they owned. Because once the throne is reclaimed, it's no longer theirs to desire. It belongs to you and you alone. 2. The spotlight they took for granted is gone. There's a moment when someone who once believed they were the center of your universe realizes that the light they basked in, the admiration, the attention, the unwavering loyalty you once poured into them, has vanished. And in that moment, reality slams into them harder than they ever anticipated. Have you ever thought about how much power you gave them simply by choosing to see them in your light? By offering them your full attention, your focus, your emotional energy, you illuminated their world in ways they never even fully understood while they had it. They stood on the stage of your life, soaking in your admiration, confident that the applause would never end, believing that no matter what they did, no matter how distant or careless they became, you would always be there, your eyes fixed on them with the same awe, the same reverence. But life doesn't work that way. Not when you embrace the unshakable core of Stoic relationships. There comes a time when the light goes out, not because you are bitter, not because you seek revenge, but because you have evolved. You have realized that your spotlight, your love, your energy are gifts, not guarantees, and they are not given to those who squander them. Can you feel it now? That moment when your gaze no longer seeks them out, when your energy is no longer centered around what they do or don't do. That's when the shift happens. That's when they feel the chill of the darkness they never thought they would have to endure. They assumed they could take their bows and exit and still find you there, waiting for the next act, the next moment to cheer for them. But what happens when the stage is empty and the seats are vacant, when the only sound they hear is the echo of their own loneliness? They realize they were never the performance. They were simply part of your story, a chapter that you have now closed. Stoicism teaches us that admiration must be earned daily, that love is not a currency to be spent recklessly. It demands that we guard our energy the way a king guards his treasure, offering it only to those who see its worth. When you withhold your light from someone who took it for granted, you do not just create absence, you create a void so profound that it forces them to confront their own insignificance. Have you ever watched someone fumble in the dark, desperate to recreate a glow they once dismissed? Have you felt the silent satisfaction of knowing that your withdrawal speaks louder than any confrontation ever could? That is the essence of Stoic relationships: silent power, undeniable presence, the unbreakable strength that comes from no longer needing to be seen to know your worth. They will try to find replacements. They will seek new stages, new audiences, new admirers, but nothing will compare to the light you once gave so freely. Nothing will fill the void left by your absence. They will search for it everywhere, convinced that if they perform well enough, they can recreate it, but they can't. Because your light wasn't just admiration, it was authenticity, depth, unwavering belief in their potential. And when that kind of light disappears, it leaves a mark that no superficial attention can heal. How does it feel to know that simply by reclaiming your energy, you have shifted the entire dynamic? You no longer have to explain your absence, your silence, your disinterest. It speaks for itself. It echoes louder than any argument. It reminds them moment after moment that the spotlight they took for granted is gone, and with it, the certainty they once felt. Stoicism isn't about shutting down emotions. It's about mastering them. It's about knowing when to give and when to protect, when to nurture, and when to walk away. And now, by withdrawing your attention, you are embodying the purest form of Stoicism, controlled, deliberate, powerful. They will try to tempt you back with breadcrumbs of attention, flashes of charm, whispers of promises. They will post on social media, hoping you notice, send casual messages masked in indifference, even appear at places where they know you might be. All desperate attempts to catch your eye, to stand once again in the warmth they took for granted. But you, rooted in the strength of Stoic relationships, do not falter. You do not chase. You do not give your light to those who treated it like a disposable commodity. Instead, you direct it inward. You build yourself. You light your own path. And as your glow grows brighter without them, they shrink further into the darkness they created. Imagine how haunting it must feel for them to realize that the world they once ruled has moved on without them, that the admiration they assumed was eternal has found a new home, and that they are no longer the hero in your story, but merely a distant memory. That is the ultimate reckoning. That is the price they pay for taking you for granted. When you step fully into this truth, when you embrace stoicism at your core, you become unshakable. You realize that your light was never dependent on them. They were never the source. You were. And now, having turned that light inward, you are unstoppable. So let them wander in the dark. Let them search for a way back into a spotlight that no longer shines for them. Let them wrestle with the realization that their relevance was always conditional, always fragile, always dependent on the one thing they thought they could replace, but never truly understood: you. As you walk forward, carrying your light with pride and purpose, remember this: they are not your story anymore. They are not your audience. They are not your worth. They are a lesson, a reminder that your energy, your love, your attention are sacred. And only those who honor it, cherish it, and reciprocate it will ever again have the privilege of standing in your light. If you're feeling the power of this message right now, if you're ready to reclaim your spotlight and never again give it away so easily, show your strength. Like this video, comment #1 below if this is hitting home for you, and subscribe for more powerful lessons about stoicism, self-worth, and building stoic relationships that last a lifetime. Your journey toward unstoppable confidence is just getting started. 3. A lock without its key. There's a silent but devastating moment when someone realizes that the door they once walked through so easily is now closed forever, that the key they held so carelessly no longer fits, and that what they assumed would always be theirs has evolved beyond their reach. Have you ever asked yourself how many times you left that door unlocked, waiting, hoping, even when they didn't deserve it? How often you believed that loyalty meant offering endless chances, that love meant leaving the door ajar no matter how many times they left without looking back. Society feeds us the illusion that patience will eventually win them over, that devotion will make them stay. But Stoicism shatters that illusion. It teaches us that access to your heart is a privilege, not a right. And once someone abuses it, once they treat it like it will always be there, it's your duty to yourself to change the lock. They believed they could come and go as they pleased, like the rules didn't apply to them, like you would always be waiting with open arms, ready to erase the pain, the disrespect, the absence with a smile and a second chance. But when you embrace the true power of Stoic relationships, you understand that forgiveness does not mean forgetting, and healing does not mean reopening wounds. Instead, you evolve. You change the lock, not out of hatred, not out of spite, but out of a deep and abiding love for yourself. And when they return, reaching for the key they thought was theirs forever, the look on their face when it no longer fits is the purest form of justice. They thought they had time. They thought they had power. They thought they could make you an option, a backup plan, a safe harbor they could revisit when the world became too cold. They thought you were trapped in a cycle of longing, of hope, of nostalgia, but they forgot that time changes all things, especially hearts that have learned to value themselves. And now they stand outside, fumbling with the key, knocking on a door that no longer recognizes them. How devastating must it be to realize that the safe place they abandoned has been rebuilt without them, that the space they once occupied has been transformed into a sanctuary of self-respect and unshakable peace. Stoicism demands that we do not cling to what no longer serves us, that we do not allow access to those who treated us as optional. It teaches us to guard our energy, to protect our peace, to ensure that only those who truly see us, who honor us, are granted entrance into our lives. The one who walked away believing they could always come back is now learning the hardest truth of all. Access is not eternal. Love is not a guarantee. Doors do not stay open forever. When you moved on, you didn't slam the door out of anger. You closed it with grace, with dignity, with the quiet knowledge that you deserve more than broken promises and half-hearted returns. You didn't lock them out because you hated them. You locked them out because you finally loved yourself more. Then you loved the idea of what could have been. And that realization is what they cannot handle. They scroll through old messages, reading words that once made them feel powerful, wondering if they still have a chance. They rehearse conversations in their heads, crafting apologies they will probably never have the courage to say. They lurk in the shadows of your life, looking for any crack in the wall, any sign that the door might still open if they knock hard enough. But all they find is silence. All they feel is the coldness of a door that no longer moves for them. Imagine standing before a place that once felt like home and realizing you are now a stranger. Imagine reaching for a key you were once so sure of, only to find that it no longer grants you entrance, that the space behind the door has grown without you, flourished without you, risen beyond your reach. That is the cost of taking someone for granted. That is the price of believing that love and loyalty are infinite resources that can be depleted without consequence. In Stoic Relationships, we learn that love given freely must be treasured, that trust must be honored, and that access once revoked is almost never restored. You are not obligated to reopen the door simply because they feel regret. You are not responsible for their realization. Your only responsibility is to yourself, to continue growing, evolving, and protecting the life you are building without them. They thought they could leave and return to find you unchanged, waiting. But you were never waiting. You were rising. You were transforming. You were becoming someone they can no longer reach, no matter how many keys they forge, no matter how many doors they knock on, no matter how desperately they plead. They made their choice when they walked away. They destroyed their access with their actions, with their indifference, with their arrogance. And now, all that's left for them is to stand on the outside, longing for a place they will never again be invited into. Can you see the power in that? Can you feel the strength in knowing that you don't have to slam the door to make your point, that simply by living, thriving, building without them, you have made your strongest statement? That is Stoicism at its finest, not loud, not angry, but quietly, unshakably powerful. Their regret is not your burden to carry. Their longing is not your responsibility to soothe. Their realization comes too late, and you owe them nothing. Not a conversation, not closure, not another chance. Your life is no longer built around the hope of their return. It's built around the certainty of your own worth. So let them stand, and their key in hand, knocking on a door that no longer opens for them. Let them feel the weight of their choices. Let them experience the full consequences of believing that you would always be an option. And you keep walking, you keep building. You keep shining, because once you change the lock, once you evolve beyond them, there's no going back, only forward, only higher, only stronger. That is the promise of Stoicism. That is the gift of Stoic Relationships, and that is the life you deserve. Or the bridge they burned now leads to nowhere. There's a unique kind of silence that falls when someone finally realizes they cannot go back to what they destroyed. It's a silence heavy with regret, thick with memories they can no longer access, drowning in the bitter reality that they burned the very bridge they now desperately wish to cross. Have you ever thought about the countless second chances you handed out, the endless patience you offered, believing deep down that loyalty meant enduring the slow collapse of respect? We are conditioned to believe that love should survive anything, even disrespect, even abandonment. But Stoicism teaches something different. Love must be mutual, respect must be constant, and bridges, once burned, are not easily rebuilt. They believed they could walk away, that they could take their time exploring other options, other people, other lives, and still find you there, waiting, unwavering, forgiving. They believed your loyalty was endless, your love a permanent fixture they could return to whenever the world turned cold. But what they never considered was that every step they took away from you, every moment they acted like you were expendable, was another match struck against the bridge that connected them to your heart. And when they finally turned around, ready to return, the bridge was gone, nothing but ash, nothing but a memory of the connection they took for granted. Can you picture the moment they realized it? Standing on the edge, staring into the abyss, recognizing for the first time that their arrogance, their carelessness, their assumptions have left them stranded. It is not anger that greets them. It is emptiness. It is not your voice calling them back. It is the unbreakable silence of someone who has moved on. Stoic relationships teach us to recognize when a bond has been severed beyond repair, not through a single act, but through the accumulation of indifference and disrespect. Love cannot survive in a place where it is not honored. Bridges are built through effort, through trust, through mutual respect. And once they are burned, it is not your duty to rebuild them for someone who didn't care enough to preserve them in the first place. They thought they had time. They thought they could wander, experiment, take detours, and still have a way back into your life whenever they chose. But time, once wasted, becomes a wall they cannot climb. Actions once taken create consequences that cannot be undone. They see it now, don't they? They scroll through old photos, reread old messages, relive old memories, trying to find a way to reconstruct what they so recklessly destroyed. But memories are not bridges, and longing is not enough to rebuild what they broke. Imagine the devastation of realizing that you set fire to your only path back to the one person who truly cared for you. That is the punishment for their arrogance. That is the price of taking someone irreplaceable for granted. In Stoicism, we do not seek revenge. We do not waste energy on bitterness. We simply move forward, leaving the ashes behind, building new roads, new paths, new futures where their absence is not a loss but a liberation. You didn't burn the bridge, they did. You didn't walk away from loyalty, from love, from connection, they did. And now, as they stand there desperate, isolated, haunted by the echoes of what was, they must face the truth they tried so hard to ignore. You were never the one who was replaceable. They were. The beauty of Stoic relationships lies in the quiet, unshakable power of knowing your value. You do not need to shout your worth from the rooftops. You do not need to explain why the bridge is gone. Your absence, your evolution, your peace speak louder than any words ever could. They will try to reach you. They will test the waters with tentative messages, accidental encounters, nostalgic attempts to spark what they extinguished. They will post memories on social media, songs you loved together, quotes about second chances, hoping you will see them, feel them, miss them. But Stoicism teaches you to see through these illusions, to recognize that regret is not love, that longing is not loyalty, that missing you is not the same as deserving you. When you sever the bridge and walk away with your head held high, you reclaim your sovereignty. You refuse to allow their regret to become your burden. You protect the life you are building without them. And as you walk further into your new reality, the distance grows, the gap widens, and the bridge, already nothing but ashes, fades completely from view. They will be left standing there, haunted by the permanence of what they lost, drowning in the realization that they traded something irreplaceable for momentary ego, fleeting distractions, temporary pride. They thought your forgiveness was endless, but Stoicism demands boundaries. They thought your love was unconditional, but Stoicism requires self-respect. They thought they could burn the bridge and you would rebuild it for them. But Stoicism knows that what is destroyed by carelessness is not restored by regret. How empowering is it to know that you no longer have to explain yourself, that you No longer have to justify why you moved on, why you refused to rebuild, why you chose yourself over the empty promises of someone who didn't choose you when it mattered. That is the gift of Stoic relationships: clarity, strength, freedom. So, let them stand at the edge of nothingness. Let them feel the full weight of their choices. Let them wrestle with the crushing understanding that they lost you, not in a single moment, but through 1,000 tiny acts of neglect. And you keep building. You keep rising. You keep creating a life so full, so vibrant, so unshakably yours, that the ashes of what they destroyed become nothing more than a distant, irrelevant memory. If this truth is resonating deep within you, if you feel the power of choosing yourself, standing firm, and never looking back, show your strength right now. Like this video, comment #1 below. If you feel this message in your soul. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful lessons on Stoicism, self-worth, and how to build Stoic relationships that transform your entire life. Your rise is inevitable. Your peace is priceless. Your future is untouchable. Hive, a ghost in their own story. There comes a moment, so quiet yet so profound, when someone realizes they have become nothing more than a ghost in a life they once believed they owned, a fleeting shadow in a story they thought would always revolve around them. And no matter how hard they try to deny it, the truth seeps in, undeniable and irreversible, and they are left to wrestle with the haunting weight of their own insignificance. Have you ever paused and asked yourself how many times you gave them center stage in your life? How often you allowed their needs, their moods, their absence to dictate your emotions, your days, your very sense of self? How often you shaped your own story around them, giving them the leading role without ever asking if they deserved it? Stoic relationships teach us that no one, no matter how charming or essential they once seemed, deserves the power to write our narrative for us. And when you awaken to that truth, when you finally reclaim the pen and write them out of your story, the transformation is so complete, so permanent, that they are left clinging to fading memories like a ghost, desperately trying to haunt a place that no longer feels like home. They thought they could walk away whenever they pleased, that their absence would leave a permanent hollow in your heart, that you would freeze in time, anchored to their memory, mourning what was and what could have been. But what they failed to understand is that Stoicism is not passive endurance. It is active, relentless growth, and when you stepped away from their shadow, you didn't just survive, you flourished. Imagine their shock when they realized that while they were busy living their life without you, assuming you would always remain frozen in that place of longing and waiting, you moved on, you rose higher, you evolved into someone who no longer even sees them as part of the landscape. Their name, once a spark that could ignite floods of emotion within you, now barely registers a flicker. Their face, once capable of unbalancing your world, now feels like a distant stranger. How haunting must it be for them to realize that they no longer hold any power, any influence, any relevance in the world they once assumed they dominated. That is the lesson of Stoic relationships. Detachment is not indifference, it is mastery. Mastery over your emotions, mastery over your attention, mastery over your destiny. They see you now, not as the adoring supporter they once counted on, but as a force unstoppable, unbothered, untouchable. They hear about your successes, they catch glimpses of your happiness, they see flashes of your growth, and they feel a hollow ache where certainty once lived. They thought they would always be the protagonist in your mind, but now they are nothing more than a forgotten side character, a ghost wandering through the ruins of a past you no longer inhabit. It is one of life's most brutal ironies. The more they expected you to need them, the more devastated they are when they realize you don't even notice their absence anymore. The silence you offer them now is not an invitation to return. It is a final, immutable statement. You have moved on, you have transcended, and no amount of regret, nostalgia, or belated realization can bring them back into a story that has evolved without them. Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies, not in clinging to what once was, but in accepting what is, and using it as fuel for what will be. You didn't erase them out of cruelty. You outgrew them out of necessity. You didn't become cold. You became wise. You didn't stop loving them. You started loving yourself more. And now, in the quiet spaces of their regret, they feel the absence of your energy more powerfully than they ever felt your presence. They scroll through your old conversations, search for traces of themselves in your new life, hoping to find some lingering proof that they still matter. But the harder they search, the more painfully obvious it becomes. They are the ones left behind, trapped in a memory that no longer holds any meaning for you. Imagine being a ghost, haunting a world that has already forgotten you, trying to be seen, to be felt, to matter again, and failing over and over, crushed by the deafening silence of irrelevance. That is the fate they created for themselves. When they chose arrogance over appreciation, when they chose comfort over commitment, when they chose themselves over you. And you kept walking, you kept building, you kept rising. You learned the art of stoicism, not as a cold wall against life, but as a living, breathing power that keeps you centered no matter who stays or who leaves. Every step you take forward is a step further away from their influence. Every achievement, every smile, every new connection is another nail in the coffin of the chapter they thought they could always revisit. You are not bitter, you are not vengeful, you are not waiting, you are simply alive in a way they can never touch again. Their regret is a prison of their own making, a sentence without parole, a reminder that you were real, you were valuable, you were irreplaceable, and they let you slip through their fingers. In Stoic relationships, we understand that closure does not come from apologies or explanations. It comes from within. You close the chapter not when they say they are sorry, but when you no longer need them to be. You find peace not when they recognize your worth, but when you recognize it so profoundly that their recognition becomes irrelevant. How empowering is it to realize that you are not haunted by them? They are haunted by you, that your absence echoes louder in their life than your presence ever did, that the love, the loyalty, the light you once offered freely is now a memory they cannot reclaim, a ghost they cannot exorcise. That is your strength. That is the silent, unstoppable force of stoicism at work. Let them feel it. Let them wrestle with it. Let them be the ghost in a story that has already turned its page. And you keep writing, you keep living, you keep rising unstoppable and untouchable. 6. A name they can't say without regret. There's a strange, haunting power in a name. A simple sound that once sparked smiles, laughter, warmth, and now weighs heavy with regret. A name that once flowed so easily from their lips, but now catches in their throat, stinging like a wound that refuses to heal, a silent reminder of everything they lost but can never reclaim. Have you ever stopped to wonder how often they hear your name now? Not in conversations filled with excitement and affection, but in fleeting moments when the world throws unexpected memories in their path. Stoic relationships teach us that the true measure of our impact is not in how loudly someone proclaims their love when they are with us, but in how deeply they feel our absence when we are gone, when even the mention of us is enough to pull them into a vortex of memory, longing, and regret. They once said your name without thinking, didn't they? Casually, carelessly, assuming it would always be there, assuming you would always be an accessible part of their story. They said it with entitlement, with the confidence of someone who believes they can never lose what they have grown used to. But time and your silence have changed everything. Now, when they hear your name, it isn't a casual mention, it's a dagger. It cuts through whatever facade they try to maintain. It brings them back to a moment, a life, a version of themselves that they can never return to because you, the one they took for granted, have moved beyond their reach. Imagine how many times they must replay old conversations, scroll through memories, hear your name mentioned by mutual friends, or stumble across it somewhere unexpected, only to feel a sharp, aching pull in their chest. That's not love, that's regret. That's the heavy, unrelenting weight of knowing they had something rare, something extraordinary, and they let it slip away. They thought they could replace you. They thought that time or distractions or new connections would dull the ache. But the mind doesn't work that way. It clings to what was real, to what mattered, to what was genuine. Stoicism teaches that we do not seek validation from others. We know our value intrinsically. And when you embody this truth, when you live it fully, you become unforgettable, not because you demand to be remembered, but because the depth of who you are leaves a mark that no superficial relationship can ever erase. Their mind traps them. Now, your name becomes the key to a prison of their own making. Every time they hear it, a memory flashes. The sound of your laughter, the way you once said their name, the plans you made together, the trust they once held so carelessly in there. And every memory is a reminder that they are no longer part of that world, that no matter how much they want to go back, no matter how much they regret, they cannot undo what they destroyed. You don't have to remind them. Life does that for you. The echo of your name haunts them far more effectively than any confrontation ever could. It is a slow, relentless reminder of the loss they engineered with their own arrogance and indifference. They thought forgetting would be easy. They thought moving on would be simple. But the truth is, when someone leaves behind something irreplaceable, the void left in their soul grows louder over time, not quieter. Can you imagine it? Sitting in a room, hearing your name mentioned, feeling your chest tighten, realizing that the person who once loved you now thrives without you, that your name carries the weight of what could have been, of opportunities squandered, of love wasted. That's the real punishment, not your anger, not your revenge, but your complete, unshakable evolution beyond their reach. In Stoic relationships, we understand that our presence is a gift and our absence is a reckoning. When someone hears your name and feels pain instead of comfort, longing instead of satisfaction, they are experiencing the silent but powerful consequences of their own choices. You are not their comfort anymore. You are not their safe place. You are the living embodiment of a lesson they will never escape. And you continue forward, unaffected, growing stronger with every step, embodying the essence of Stoicism. Centered, calm, untouchable. They will spend years chasing moments they can never recreate, searching for someone who feels like you, hoping to dull the ache every time your name surfaces in their mind. But you have already transcended their world. You have already claimed a future that no longer has room for those who failed to appreciate you. There is a brutal, beautiful symmetry to it. They once took pride in the way you loved them, and now they are trapped in the shadow of the love they can never reclaim. Their regret becomes a chain they cannot break, a silent burden they must carry alone. Your name becomes their reminder, not just of you, but of the version of themselves they lost the day they let you go. Every success you achieve, every moment of joy you experience, every new connection you build without them intensifies the sting of your name in their heart. And they will hear it everywhere, whispered by mutual friends, popping up unexpectedly, in conversation, flashing across a screen, buried in a song lyric, and each time it will hit them anew. They can run, they can distract themselves, they can chase temporary highs, but the truth will always find them. Your name, once a symbol of love and possibility, is now their greatest regret. That is the power of Stoicism, not in forcing others to suffer, but in mastering yourself so completely that their suffering is self-inflicted, born from the absence of the light they once took for granted. You owe them no explanation. You owe them no second chance. You owe them nothing but the silence that speaks louder than words ever could. Every time your name crosses their mind, it reminds them of everything they threw away, and that is a consequence they must bear for the rest of their lives. You, on the other hand, are free. Free to write new chapters, to build new dreams, to love with open arms but guarded standards. Free to know that the ones who truly deserve your presence will never take it for granted. Free to be the author of your own story, a story where you are never again a footnote in someone else's narrative, but always the hero of your own. If you feel the strength of this truth vibrating in your bones, if you are ready to continue rising above the past and stepping fully into your power, make your presence known. Like this video, comment number 1 below if this message is resonating deep within you, and subscribe to join a community that lives by the unshakable wisdom of stoicism, resilience, and authentic Stoic relationships. Your journey is sacred, your future is unstoppable, and your name, it will never again be spoken. Casually, it will be remembered as the one they should have cherished, the one they lost forever. At the end of it all, what remains is not the pain they caused, not the questions they left unanswered, not even the memories that once held so much power over your heart. What remains is you, the you who chose to rise instead of crumble, to grow instead of grasp, to walk forward instead of standing still. The greatest transformation doesn't happen in the moments when they leave or when they come back begging. It happens in the quiet decision you make, deep within yourself, to never again hand over your peace, your worth, your future to someone who failed to value it when it mattered most. Stoicism teaches us that true strength is not found in controlling others or in needing their approval. It's found in mastering ourselves, in becoming so rooted, so whole, that nothing external can unmake the life we are creating. You have lived through the storm, and now you are the calm that follows. You have endured the absence, and now you are the presence that fills every room you walk into. You have tasted the loneliness, and now you embody the fullness of someone who belongs entirely to herself. They will remember you, not because you force them to, but because forgetting someone like you is impossible. They will speak your name only when the weight of their regret grows too heavy to bear. They will replay the choices they made, the bridges they burned, the doors they can no longer unlock, the thrones they surrendered without realizing that they were kneeling before a queen. And while they are haunted by what they lost, you will be living proof that true power was never about holding on. It was always about letting go with grace, walking away with dignity, and rising with unshakable Stoic strength. You do not need their validation to know your worth. You do not need their apologies to find closure. You do not need their return to feel complete. You are already whole. You are already powerful. And as you continue to step forward into the life that is unfolding before you, remember this truth. You were never the ghost in their story. They became the ghost in yours. And nothing, absolutely nothing, shines brighter than a woman who knows her worth, protects her peace, and reigns over her own life with quiet, relentless power. Keep rising, keep building, keep choosing yourself every single day. The story continues, and now it is fully, beautifully, irrevocably yours.